Hello students, welcome back. Myself Pushpendra Singh and we are going to start with our daily current affairs. So today you have the 12th of February 2021 and we are going to start with our daily current affairs. So these classes are basically meant for those students who are preparing for the civil services examination as well as other government competitive examinations because the examinations require you to answer the few current affairs related questions. All right. So here we are helping you for your daily current affairs related questions. You can refer our channel on the YouTube Future IS. Okay, and you can subscribe it and you will get daily current affairs related news on the day-to-day basis. So let's begin with the lecture. Okay, so the first news basically which is flashing regarding Tapovan Dam. Okay, so this Tapovan Dam is basically is located in the Uttarakhand state. So here the National Thermal Power Corporation NTPC's project called Tapovan Hydel Power Project, which is have been washed away, right, because of the flash flood that caused because of your the glacier retreat. So what happens is because of the glacial outburst or because of the outburst of the glacial lake, this Tapovan Hydel project was also inundated because of these flash floods. Now there were workers who were working during that point of the time in this Tapovan Hydel project tunnel. So in this tunnel, almost 35 workers were trapped right on that day when these flash floods occurred on the 7th of February 2021, and all 35 workers was trapped right after a snow avalanche, which basically triggered a flash floods in the Chamoli district of Uttarakhand state. All right, so it is basically related to that rescue operations which were resumed right in this tunnel. Okay, so here regarding this Tapovan Hydel project, it is basically having a hydropower project, which is also known as Tapovan Vishnugad hydropower project. It is nothing but 520 megawatt run of the river hydropower project, which is basically used for generation of electricity to the tune of 520 megawatt, right, which is constructed on Dhauliganga river in the Chamoli district of Uttarakhand. So it is the same state, it is the same district in which the flash floods occur because of the snow avalanche. All right, so here it is 520 megawatt run of the river hydroelectric power project. Now this plant is expected to generate over 2.5 terawatt hours of the electricity annually. So this 2.5 terawatt hours of the electricity would be supplied in the Uttarakhand state as well as to the adjoining states. All right, this Tapovan Vishnugad project of NTPC, it is the second such hydropower project which was initiated by the NTPC, right? NTPC basically producing the power through the coal fired power plants, right? So you have the thermal power plants in which the National Thermal Power Corporation is basically producing energy. Now this is the new venture where NTPC also entered into the production of electricity from this hydropower projects. The hydropower projects are comparatively less polluting, right, because it does not involve any sort of the removal of greenhouse gases or carbon dioxide or methane or something like that. But obviously the construction related to for some form of tunnel or run of the river project will require certain construction activities. Okay, and this project was under in the advanced stage of construction, but now because of these flash floods it caused severe damage to this tunnel right on the 7th February 2021 when this flash flood occurs due to the glacier. Okay, so you can see basically here the workers are basically working in the tunnel in this project. Okay, next is Vijayanagara district. So this Vijayanagara is associated with the Vijayanagara kingdom, which is there in the Karnataka region, first of all, which was there. Now what happens is there was a demand regarding the bifurcation of Bellary district. Okay, the bifurcation of the Bellary district, because until now there was no Vijayanagara district. But now what happens is the Karnataka government basically bifurcated the Bellary district into the Bellary and Vijayanagara district. Now this Vijayanagara district basically formed out of the existing Bellary district. So now Karnataka government has issued the notification demarcating the boundary of newly formed this Vijayanagara district in the Karnataka state. Okay, so with this newly Vijayanagara district, the Karnataka will have 31 districts total. Okay, it is named after the Vijayanagara Empire. Okay, that you probably would have studied in your ancient India. Okay, this Vijayanagara Empire was very important in the Karnataka region, right? And this district is basically carved out of the Bellary district under Karnataka Land Revenue Act 1964. Okay. Now, this Vijayanagara, which is located in the Hyderabad, Karnataka region, is also having some of the world famous UNESCO's heritage sites. Right? For example, you might have heard also the Hampi Temple, Virupaska Temple. These are all, the world heritage sites recognized by the UNESCO. Right? And there will be 6 taluks, right? Talukas in this newly constructed Vijayanagara district. Okay, and Hospet will be the headquarters of the Vijayanagara district. Okay, so these 6 taluks are basically the Hospet, right? Kudligi, then Hagari, Bomanhali, then Kuturu, then Hovina Hadagali, then Harapanhali, right? These are basically the 6 taluks under the Vijayanagara district. So you can basically see in this picture where the yellow one basically is newly created Vijayanagara district. So this yellow one is newly created Vijayanagara district. So this one, right? And this green one is basically remaining part of the Bellary district. So it will be the Bellary and it will be your Vijayanagara district. Initially, there was completely a Bellary district only, but now it was bifurcated and the separate Vijayanagara district have formed. So this is basically taluks. So Hospet, Kampali, Hagari, Boman, Hali, Kotur, right? Hadagali and Haram, Munapalli. Then in Bellary district, you have again 5 taluks: Bellary, Korugadu, right? Sirapuguppa, Sandur, and Kudligi. These are the some of the taluks related to the Bellary district. Okay. Next, the India-Australia Circular Economy, that is called IACE Hackathon 2021. So first of all, you must understand the circular economy. You must understand, right, is that type of economy where the waste are completely eliminated. That means you have that type of waste management in which everything is recyclable. Everything is recyclable. You can reuse, n number of time, right? So there will not be any waste. There will not be any waste, right? Whatever the waste you are generating, that may be used for, for some work, for some other inputs in the basically in the economy. So ultimately eliminating, the waste, after certain production related supply chain. So here in the circular economy, you are manufacturing or you are producing in such a way that the waste is totally eliminated and it will be utilized in some other form. Okay, so here a hackathon, which is basically the India Australia Circular Economy Hackathon, is related to that. So here what happens is the goal which enable the talented innovative students, right, and the startups, both from Indian side as well as from Australian side. Okay, these innovative students and the startup would address these issues related to the circular economy. Okay, now these startups as well as these students would provide some of the innovative technological solutions to the waste management. Okay, and here the agencies are involved, which are the Atal Innovation Mission, AIM, as well as from the Australia side, the Australia's National Science Agency, which is also known as CSIRO. Okay, both have kick-started the India Australia Circular Economy Hackathon 2021. Ultimate aim is to find out the innovative technological solution, right, with regard to the circular economy. Okay, now this IACE, which is known as India Australia Circular Economy Hackathon, is basically promoted or supported by the Australian Department of Industry, Science, Energy and Resources, as well as from the Indian side, the Atal Innovation Mission and Atal Incubation Center Network, and various other domain experts also participating in this hackathon. Okay, so here the circular economy model, right, innovative technological solution would be find out through this hackathon, right? It employ, right, the waste management, where you will have certain processes like reuse, recycling, and responsible manufacturing, right, which will basically support some of the industries, jobs, and ultimately creation of the new jobs ultimately if you provide that type of solutions, and that will definitely reduce the emissions and also increasing the efficient use of the natural resources, because ultimately you are minimizing the waste, right? You are doing some form of waste management in which the reuse, recycling and responsible manufacturing process will be done, and here obviously the efficient use of natural resources would be done. Okay, the four key themes on which the hackathon will be conducted, these are basically innovation in the packaging that reduce the packaging waste. Okay, so ultimately in India you might have seen also the plastic polythenes. Okay, they are very minor, right? And the government is basically promoting 50 microns the polythene, but still the finest polythene is available in the market, and they are not biodegradable, right? It will take thousands of the year to to degrade, and it will basically cause so much problems, not only in terms of pollution but also many animals die also because of after ingesting these polythenes, right? And sometime also it causes fire and lot of other carcinogenic substances also released by these polythenes. So innovation in terms of packaging products can also be promoted through this hackathon. Second is innovation in the food supply chains avoiding waste. So here the food supply chains which are there, right, throughout the world, especially with respect to India and Australia. So if you provide that innovation in those chains, that will definitely avoid the waste, right, which is generated or which is basically is happening right now in the food supply chains, right? Obviously creating the opportunities for plastic waste reduction. So plastic waste which is very high in India, right? So certain opportunities will be provided in terms of reuse, in terms of recycle, or even completely elimination of the plastic, and instead using some other substitute, right, for the plastic in the long run, right? And next is basically recycling the critical energy metals and the e-waste. That is most important. Recycling is something which is most important, where the energy metals or e-waste are basically recycled, because you might have seen also in in the computer applications, especially in the hardwares, right? The silicon chips and various other metals are basically there. Now if you use that same metal and e-waste materials, obviously you can reuse them in the multiple times, right? And it will definitely save the critical metals in that format. Okay, so here you have the different type of economies. So linear economy means you will have the obviously non recyclable waste. So here you use the raw material, okay, from from mining or whatever maybe the way. Okay, then you use this raw material, right, in the manufacturing process, and you produce some other production. Okay, right? For example, you use iron ore as a raw material, you produce steel. Okay, then you use the steel, but it also produce certain set of non recyclable waste that you leave it. Okay, that you are not utilizing or reusing back. So that is called linear economy. Reuse economy means you are having the non recyclable waste, but there are certain recyclable waste also, but that is not totally eliminated. So you will definitely have some of the non recyclable waste, but that will definitely less than this linear economy. So you will have raw material, you will use this raw material in the production, then you will use, and you will also recycle, but that is not completely recyclable, right? So non recyclable waste also will be there. But in the circular economy, you will have the raw material used for the production, then ultimately it will be used and completely it will be recycled. So there will not be any non recyclable waste. So the hackathon is basically mainly focusing on the circular economy in that perspective. Okay, then seaweed mission. Seaweed missions are is basically launched, right, by the Technology Information Forecasting and Assessment Council, which is also known as TFAC, which launched this seaweed mission for commercial farming of the seaweeds in India. Okay, because the seaweeds have tremendous applications in India. For example, it is basically used right for production of important polysaccharides, right? Also the production of plant growth stimulants. So the production of plant growth stimulants as well as the production of polysaccharides, the seaweeds are very important. for their promotion, for their cultivation, the Technology Information Forecasting and Assessment Council, that is called TFAC, is basically launch a mission which is called seaweed, right? In that mission, the seaweed would be commercially farmed, right? So there will be, promotion of commercially farming of the seaweeds, right? And it will be processed for the value addition towards boosting the national economy. Okay, now under the seaweed mission, right, various other activities have been emphasized. So first of all, under this mission, a model demonstration will be there on the farm level, right? This model demonstration will have around 1 hectares of the land that will be devoted for the cultivation of, most important seaweeds, or those seaweeds which are economically most important near seashore or onshore, right? So it will be used, right? This 1 hectare of the land will be taken nearby the shore area or onshore area nearby your Indian coast region, right? So here it will be a model demonstration to those farmers, which can be use this model, right, as the main source of their the earning also, right? Here the establishment of seaweed nurseries. Apart from this, using this cultivation on the commercial lines, the seaweed nurseries also will be established. This seaweed nurseries will be providing the seed material. Seed material means from there the seaweed will be commercially grown. So this seaweed nursery will provide the seed materials on the large scale farming to the farmers, right, where it will be economically important for our country. Okay, this onshore cultivation will be basically done for the dual objective. First of all, seedling supply facilities. So those seeds will be provided, right, for the commercial cultivation for the most important varieties of the seaweed. Secondly, the seaweed cultivation for the processing. Okay, this seaweed will be ultimately so first of all grown commercially, and that will be processed, right? And as I told you, that the setting up of this processing plant, which is basically related to the seaweed for integrated production of plant growth, basically is basically along the most important industrially important cell wall polysaccharides. So these polysaccharides basically such as agarose, right, carrageenan and alginates are basically obtained from the fresh seaweeds, right? So here the production of this plant growth stimulants as well as the production of wall polysaccharides are basically obtained from the seaweed cultivation in India. Okay, next, the saksham means shramik shakti manch. So it is basically again the TFAC, the Technology Information and Forecasting Assessment Council. TFAC has launched the saksham, which is Shramik Shakti Manch. Okay, so TFAC has launched the Shramik Shakti Manch. What is that? It is a portal. First of all, it is a portal which will be used for assessment of the skills of shramiks or workers. Okay, so it is a dynamic job portal which will be used for assessment of the requirement of the workers as well as the skills they have, so that it can be used for for their skilling, for their job providing opportunities also. So again, it is a dynamic job portal, okay, for mapping of the skills of the shramik. Okay, right, it will be ascertaining, it will be assessing the skills which is having with the shramiks, right, as well as it will try to match those skills with the requirement of MSMEs, right? So directly connecting these shramiks with the MSMEs. Okay, and if that will definitely facilitate the placement of 10 lakh those shramiks in the blue collar jobs. So ultimate aim of this dynamic portal is to provide the placement avenues to the shramiks with the requirement of those the required skills. Okay, and definitely this portal would reduce or eliminate the middlemen or contractors. Now what happens is there are many times the contractors or the middlemen will basically take the money out from the shramiks for getting their job. So this portal will eliminate the middleman or the contractor, and that will help identification of skill proficiency label and the development of skill cards for the shramiks, which can be ultimately used by the shramiks for getting better job avenues. Okay, and this portal basically, the Shaksham portal would basically use, some sort of a artificial intelligence tools, right? So that will have, demand and supply data, how many Shramiks are there, what is the supply of those, skilled, workers, and what is the demand, right? So that demand and supply data will be used, right, as an algorithm and, artificial intelligence tools, and that will basically used as a geospatial information regarding the demand and the supply, right, regarding the Shramiks, and that will definitely provide an analysis regarding the skill related, the requirement of those Shramiks. So that will help in, assessing the skills, help in analyzing the skill training programs, and also ascertaining the skills related to those particular MSMEs which are there with the Shramiks. Okay, so here the pilot portal, which was launched originally for the two districts, now is being, launched as a pan India portal. So this will be used by, throughout the country. Okay, so it is basically a Shaksham Shramik Shakti Manch, a portal launched by TIFAC. Okay, then the India's first CNG tractor. Okay, so it is the first indigenously converted tractor. So it is indigenously diesel tractor have been converted into a CNG. Okay, so here this India's first ever converted to CNG tractor have been formally launched by the Union Minister for Road Transport and the Highways on February 12, 2021. Okay, so it is the first ever tractor which is converted to CNG have been launched by the Union Minister for the Road Transport. Now, this conversion from the diesel to the CNG have been carried out jointly by the Romet Techno Solutions and Tomaseto Ackley India, right? With the help of, with the help of obviously the government, and that will, help the farmers increasing their income, right? How would the farmers increase their income? Because the diesel cost around, 72 rupees per, liter, but it is the CNG which costs around 42 rupees per kg. So it is much cheaper, and that will definitely increase the income of the farmers by lowering the cost on the diesel, right? And it will obviously help in creation of the job opportunities in the rural India by retrofitting or by converting the diesel, made tractors into the CNGs. Okay, the more specific benefits regarding the CNG, you can say basically to the farmers is, first of all, this retrofitted tractor produces more power, right, or equal power in comparison to the diesel run engine. So the idea is it should produce either more power or equal power in comparison to the diesel run engines. So this is obviously provide that will be beneficial, right, to the farmers also. The second most important benefit out of this, the CNG converted tractor is the overall emissions or greenhouse gas emissions would be reduced by 70%. Because you must understand that the diesel burning or petrol burning, right, produces the greenhouse gases, for example, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, which is also polluting the environment, right? So this emission, which is basically also causing the climatic changes, right, this overall emission will be reduced by 70% when you compare with the diesel. And it will also help the farmers to save up to 50% on the fuel cost. Okay, so farmers will be able to save the 50% of the fuel cost. As I told you, the diesel around, pricing around 77 rupees per liter, but CNG is hardly causing 42 rupees per kg. So this will be beneficial for the farmers, and overall 50% on the fuel cost saving will be there, and it will also causing, greater mileage than comparison to diesel. Okay, then you have basically the MOVE CDNER scheme. What is that MOVE CDNER? MOVE CD means Mission Organic Value Chain Development for Northeastern Region. It is known as the Mission Organic Value Chain Development for the Northeastern Region. So this scheme was formally launched, first of all, right, for the development of commercial organic farming in the Northeastern region. Okay, so it was initiated in 2015 itself, right, and it was known as, right, or it started knowing as the Mission Organic Value Chain Development for the Northeastern region, because it is basically promoting the commercial organic farming, especially in the northeastern region. Okay, now this scheme started in 2015 with the average annual allocation of 134 crore rupees during last 5 years, right? And this scheme, it covered basically around 74,880 hectares of the area. Okay, now the government has felt that to increase the impact of the mission organic value chain development for the northeastern region, the allocation has increased, right, to this scheme, which has increased to 200 crore per year. So now from 134 crore per year annual allocation to 200 crore rupees per year will be increased, and that will have to target to cover additional 1 lakh hectares of the area. So additional 1 lakh hectare of the area will be covered, right? And it will be covered under 200 new farmers producers organizations which are working for commercial organic farming over the period of 3 years under this scheme. Okay, now this scheme, growing, some of the value, some of the, organic, growth products, as well as giving the value addition to the traditional crops also, right? So it ultimately aims at bringing the high value crops under the contract farming models. So this high value crops under the contract farming model will be beneficial to the farmers. Okay, now the transformation of the farmers cluster into farmers producer companies is most important, which will ensure that emergence of new breed of organic agri enterprises will be done, and that will be beneficial to the farmers also. All right, so this is organic farming. You can see the organic farming basically, produced organically. All right, next, World Unani Day. So World Unani Day is celebrated every year on the 11th February 2021. Okay, so on 11th February 2021, the World Unani Day is celebrated. The ultimate aim of celebrating this World Unani Day is to spread awareness about the healthcare delivery through the Unani system of medicine. Okay, which is through its preventive and curative philosophy. Okay, now the World Unani Day is celebrated every year to mark the birth anniversary of Hakim Ajmal Khan. The Hakim Ajmal Khan, basically an eminent Indian Unani physician. You might have heard about Hakim Ajmal, Khan. He was an Indian Unani physician, right? Who is also the great scholar in the Unani medicine, right? And also he was the social reformer and also the freedom fighter who has studied the Unani medical educationalist and the founder of scientific research in the Unani system of medicine in our country. Okay, and he was also the one of the founders of Jamia Millia Islamia University in Delhi. Okay, the principles which we use in the Unani medicine or Unani system of medicine are basically, right, the Unani system basically postulates the presence of 4 humors in our body. These 4 humors are most important for the Unani system of medicine, right? Which is dam means blood, then bulgum means your phlegm, then saffra, yellow bile, and soda, that is black bile. So these 4 humors are more important in the Unani system of medicine, which is also parallel to the 3 doshas in the Ayurveda. These 3 doshas in the Ayurveda are Kapha, Vata, and the Pitta, right? So these are almost parallel to the Unani system of medicine with the Ayurveda system of medicine, right? These quality and the quantity of these 4 humors affect the state of health and the disease in our body, right? So state of health and the disease of the body is dependent on these 4 humors according to the Unani system of medicine. The Unani system basically originated in the Greece. Okay, the theoretical framework of the Unani system of medicine is based on the work of Hippocrates, who basically, took the birth in basically 460 BC and he died basically in 377 BC. So he was, basically, a propounder of the Unani system of medicine and who basically gave the theoretical framework for the Unani medicine. Okay, now the role of the Arabs regarding the propagation of Unani of medicine is very high. Okay, the system of Unani system of medicine basically is presence from the Arabs, who basically not only the save much of the Greek literature, where because the Greece is the country where this system was basically originated. So Arabs basically saved that Greek literature, right? As also the Arab also contributed this Unani system of medicine by enriching it further. Okay, and in the Indian context, this Unani system of medicine was introduced by the Arabs and by the Persians around 11th century AD. 11th century AD. Okay, and this system of medicine was revived by the Hakim Ajmal Khan. Okay, which gave the renewed emphasis on the revival of the Unani system of medicine, right, during the freedom struggle. Okay, and the Hakim Ajmal Khan basically established the Ayurvedic and Unani Tibia College. This college, along with that, Hindustani Dawakhana was set up by the Hakim Ajmal Khan. It was a pharmaceutical company for the manufacturing of Ayurvedic and Unani medicines in Delhi in 1916, which was set up by Hakim Ajmal Khan. Okay, so Unani Day is celebrated on 11th of February every year. Okay, then Udyanotsav. Okay, so Udyanotsav is also known as basically the garden festival. The garden festival is celebrated every year, right? Basically in the month of February, March. Okay, so what happens is the every year the president's palace or the Rashtrapati Bhavan, where the residence of president is there. Okay, there are the Mughal gardens in the premises of the Rashtrapati Bhavan. These Mughal gardens are open for the public from February 13 to March 21, generally in the month of February to March. So this year, the President of India, Shri Ramnath Kovind, would inaugurate the annual Udyanotsav or the Garden Festival of the Rashtrapati Bhavan on February 12th, 2021. Okay, and by this by this opening of this Udyanotsav, the Mughal gardens, which are located in the premises of the Rashtrapati Bhavan, will be open for the general public from 13th February to March 21st. Okay, as you people knows, the Rashtrapati Bhavan is basically the official residence of the President of India. Okay, and it is flanked by this Mughal gardens, which is spreading around 15 acres of the land. Okay, now this garden is basically a blend of Mughal and the English style of gardening. Okay, both style of gardening are basically used in the formation and the construction of these gardens, which are inspired by the Persian Charbagh style. Okay, and it is also having the canals, fountains, elaborate flower beds, well-trimmed shrubs, and endless varieties of the flowers, which you can find out easily in these Mughal gardens. Okay, now a part of these gardens comprising the herbal garden, the bonsai garden, the main Mughal garden, the spiritual garden, right, which will be open to the public every year in the month of February and March under the event called Udyanotsav or the Garden Festival. Okay, every year in the month of February and March, it will be open to the general public. All right. Then the International Day of Women and the Young Girls in the Science. Okay, so it is basically in the field of STEM. STEM means science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So here, right, on the International Day of Women and the Young Girls, right, in the science, the Ministry of Women and the Child Development, in association with the Ministry of Education, my government, and the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, launched an online campaign for the promotion of the girls and the women especially in the science, technology, engineering, and in the maths field. So objective of this online campaign is to celebrate the women, right, who have carved a Nike for themselves in the field of STEM. STEM means, you can say, science, okay, then technology, okay, then engineering, okay, and M means mathematics. Okay, so ultimate aim is to celebrate the role of the women who have carved out a Nike for themselves in the field of STEM, right? It will also encourage the young girls who aspire to excel in the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and that will coordinate or that will contribute towards the nation building also. Okay, every year the International Day for the Women and the Girls in the Science is celebrated on the 11th day of February, right? This International Day of the Women and the Girls in the Science is basically set up by the resolution of United Nations General Assembly on 22nd December 2015. Okay, this day recognize the critical role the women and the girls play, especially in the science and technology field. Okay, and the ultimate purpose of this day is to promote the full and the equal access, right, to the participation of the women in the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics field. All right, so it is basically, you can see, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. It is basically a symbolic, representation with women and the girls. All right, so thank you very much for attending this current affairs class. We'll meet again tomorrow for our next current affairs. Thank you.